Greetings, everyone. Welcome to this brief review of Final Fantasy VI T Edition. I'll link to my full text review in the description of this video on YouTube. Here we go. First, thanks for liking, thanks for subscribing. And with that said, these are my thoughts on Final Fantasy VI T Edition 2.9.3 according to what I played and what I experienced. 1. Was it worth it? For me, it was because I was curious about this. I had heard about Final Fantasy VI T Edition because it added so much to Final Fantasy VI experience. But, and this is a big set of buts, there are some major negatives to this edition. The first major negative is that the new content is mostly there only after about 20 or more hours of real-time investment. This is not something you just jump into and you can access some new content. Another big complaint is that the grind has been magnified, meaning increased a lot from vanilla. If you want to get access to everything, or at least a lot of things, you're expected to grind and grind and grind, and I get away from I play games because I don't want to have to do a bunch of mundane stuff. I am very much anti-grinding. This game, this edition, inspired me to write an article against grinding and how to get away from grinding and substitute grinding in terms of making games and making games better. Now, the grind wouldn't be so big of a deal if not for the third part. This game is purposely difficult. It doesn't need to be this difficult. It feels like the difficulty was made this high to artificially inflate the need to grind. I know that this edition was made in a more holistic fashion compared to Final Fantasy VI on the SNES and its re-release on the Game Boy Advance and other platforms, wherein Kefka could be beaten around level 40 if you didn't feel like grinding that much. In fact, I have beaten Final Fantasy VI Divergent Paths, that mod, with a party of that was about level 40. I've also beaten the game at a pretty high level just because I was using Game Genie codes or I otherwise enjoyed the grind, but that was many years ago. In more recent times, I just want the game to get to the point. I want it to be entertaining throughout. I'm okay with grinding being an option, so long as I don't feel heavily persuaded into it to get the stuff that I like. And, well, T Edition just makes the grind worse, in part because spells are taught by espers that teach things at a pretty slow rate, and they don't teach, and espers in this game generally don't teach as many spells as they did in the original FF6. If, for example, we could learn 5 or 6 spells from an esper, it wouldn't matter as much that we're learning things at a slower pace. It also wouldn't. It would also be a lot better if learning spells from espers was done once and for all. If you learned a spell from an esper, the entire party learned it forever, even for characters that hadn't joined the party yet. I don't care how much real-world or in-game sense this makes. I want this done just for the sake of getting to the point sooner. For those who followed along in this series long enough, you realize that I stuck with the MVPs of Terra, Gogo, Seals, and Mog, in part because they were very useful, they were powerful overall and versatile, they could equip a bunch of stuff, but also I realized that if I had to grind out a bunch of spells for everyone, I wouldn't have gotten to the end. I would have quit somewhere in the world of balance because I don't like the grind, and I would have put my time toward just having more fun elsewhere. Some people think that the grind is worthwhile. I've played this game probably tens of times. I might have beaten this game from the beginning 20 or more times, including mods, since it was released in 1994. I don't want to have to grind out another thing. Now, I said a bunch of bad stuff, or a bunch of stuff I didn't like about the mod, but I did manage to reach the end. Hallelujah. Christ was gracious in this case. And I did stick out to the end in large part because of the new content. Because the new content was interesting, and it was engaging enough to keep me going and keep me wanting to get through either all of it or enough of it to get to the end and do the side quests, beat Kafka at the end, and proceed from there. At present, I don't plan to do X mode, because X mode is a bunch of boss fights and super difficult fights that are meant for people who simply want to grind out a bunch of victories, and I don't have that thing to prove. If you want to do it, that's on you. Okay. I'm not against it. I'm not for it for you. If you want to do it, that's on you. But for me, I've already put in enough grinds. I've already done the Soul Shrine. I already beat Kefka. We don't get any notable material rewards for beating X mode, and even if we did, we've already beaten Kefka. We've proved that we can beat Kefka. I don't need to go through that gauntlet again just to show that I can. So, in terms of plans for games for this channel, in the near term, I intended to go from this game to Baldur's Gate 1 and 2 in a heavily modded fashion, but a bunch of mods that I wanted to include for this run simply weren't available yet. So that's put on hold. Meaning, the next game that will likely be played in depth on this channel will be Pathfinder Kingmaker. I've been a very big fan of D&D 3.x and Pathfinder 1st Edition, on which Pathfinder Kingmaker and its sequel, Wrath of the Righteous, are based. Well, I'm generally familiar with the rule set, and I've been wanting to play through Pathfinder Kingmaker and actually finish it before getting to its sequel, Wrath of the Righteous. I know that Wrath of the Righteous is out. It is not required to play Kingmaker to understand the story for Wrath of the Righteous. Playing one doesn't necessarily spoil the other game. But I want to play Kingmaker through preferably through all the way. I don't know if playing it through all the way will be done for the channel. Theoretically, hypothetically, it will be done all the way through for this channel, but I reserve the right to just switch content as I see fit, because Pathfinder Kingmaker is a long game. It's longer than T Edition. I'll put it to you that way. I only got to Chapter 3 in Pathfinder Kingmaker, and there are at least 7 chapters. And even then, I put tens of hours into the game, maybe 100 hours. I don't recall offhand, but it was a lot of time. Now, you might be wondering, why play Kingmaker when Wrath of the Righteous is already out? A major reason, besides wanting to finish Kingmaker before getting to its sequel, is because Kingmaker is effectively feature complete. There are, to my understanding, no official patches in the pipeline for Kingmaker, and the modding community is pretty much done with Kingmaker, meaning I'm not expecting a bunch of mod updates that would make me want to use those mods, meaning we are in no great risk of having the game be disrupted or the game be broken midway through because we're surprised by a patch, or there's some sort of mod update that I really want to include, but it's not wise to use because it's not compatible with something that we were accustomed to over the past however many hours. Regardless, those are the plans for the moment. Thank you again, everyone. Thanks again for your likes, for your subscriptions, for joining me on this journey for however long you've been. I encourage you to just keep watching, keep listening, and keep praising. Keep praising Jesus Christ, because He likes you, He loves you, and He wants the best for you and me. Looking forward to meeting you in heaven one day, if not sooner. Thank you, everyone. Good night, and God bless. And smile. Jesus loves you. Bye now.